Liking can't be compared with love. Xinyu felt as if she had been struck by lightning, rendered completely immobile. Panicked, she looked toward Mu Fei, her eyes pleading for an answer. What should they do? Xue still had this kind of ability. Did they want them to die? A sly smile curled on Mu Fei's lips, his expression unreadable. Xinyu was on the verge of desperation, wishing she could grab his collar and demand, "Do you have any other tricks up your sleeve? If not, wasn't she as good as dead?" After all, she couldn't escape from the Great Wei Imperial Palace by herself. But Mu Fei actually said, "Since the 9th Princess Consort has such confidence, perhaps it's worthwhile to have a thorough examination." What? Shun Ye's face turned deathly pale, her arms trembling uncontrollably behind her back. She had misplaced her trust in Mu Fei. This madman was going to get her killed. Bring the tools for Yingxue. Qin really seemed to believe Su Yingxue as well, so he ordered preparations for her. Su Yingxue went to the inner hall, and from Medicine King Valley, she took a silver needle and glass slide, planning to try the blood verification method she had used on Su Euro last time. As long as it was proved that Shun Yu had no blood relation with the Empress Dowager, that would be enough. But as she was preparing the items, a beautiful woman appeared in the hall. Dressed in opulent and dignified attire, she walked in and sat down next to the Empress Dowager. Qin Ruli and Qin Mayan also treated her with great respect. When Qin Mayan saw her, he quickly introduced her. "Yingxue, this is my mother, the eldest princess. My mother passed away early, and she raised me." "Oh," Su Yingxue nodded. "So it's the eldest princess." She was her aunt. "I've heard that the Scarlet Flame King is very filial and always takes care of things personally. You should return to the eldest princess side. The princess will be protected by your highness." Chu Yihan wrapped an arm around Su Yingxue's waist, gently lifted the stray hairs from her cheek, and tucked them behind her ear, showing tender affection. This scene truly stung Qin Mayan's eyes. His face turned a hue of dark green as he returned to Qin Ge's side. Qin Gu, having heard of the events occurring within the palace, had rushed over. The question of Su Yingxue and Shan Ye's identities was of paramount importance, but she noticed that Qin Mayan held extraordinary care for Su Yingxue. He even didn't hesitate to face embarrassment in front of Chu Yihan for her sake. At the moment, Qin Mayan's expression was extremely unhappy. All because of Su Yingxue. Qin Gu, grabbing Qin Mayan's hand, inquired with a sniff, "Mayan, are you very familiar with that Su Yingxue? She has saved my life on numerous occasions. She is a very good woman." To Qin Mayan, no amount of flowery language could capture Su Yingxue, so he simply used the word good. Qin Gu naturally picked up on his underlying meaning regardless of Su Yingxue's identity. The fact that she had become Chu Yihan's wife and yet continued to capture Qin Mayan's heart couldn't sit well with her. That alone prevented her from taking a liking to Su Yingxue. She selectively ignored Su Yingxue's greeting to her. Leaning against Chu Yihan, Su Yingxue quietly said, "It seems my aunt doesn't like me very much. Do you lack her affection?" Chu Yihan's voice was cool. Su Yingxue tilted her head. "I guess not. Having hubby's affection is enough for me. For you, I have love. Love that penetrates deep into the marrow. Affection does not even merit comparison with deep love." A blush crept silently up Su Yingxue's earlobes. Originally thinking she could tease Chu Yihan, who knew this normally cold and abstinent man's casual remark would make her heart race and face flush. The princess is actually Shun Yu? Su Yingxue secretly pinched herself, thinking that she was really letting herself down. If her mother's spirit in heaven saw this, she would definitely laugh at her. "All right, everything is ready. To demonstrate fairness and impartiality, I, the princess, will collect blood from both of you. This method, taught to the court physician by the 9th Princess Consort, will be used by the court physician to verify the results. Is this acceptable?" Qin Ge's scrutinizing gaze turned towards Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue nodded frankly. "It's acceptable. No problem." Therefore, when Qin Gu came to draw her blood, she cooperated by reaching out her hand. Qin Gu placed her blood on a microscope slide. Then she turned to draw Shun Ye's blood. After collecting both blood samples, she proceeded towards the court physician. However, as she passed by Mu Fei, she suddenly heard a whisper. Swap the two people's blood. Who? Qingge was somewhat dazed. She suddenly became oblivious to her surroundings. Swap the two people's blood. The voice rang out again, and Qingge lost consciousness. Her hand under her sleeve moved. The wet nurse took the blood of the Empress Dowager, along with the 2 drops of blood Qingge had, and gave them all to the court physician. The court physician verified the blood using the method taught by Su Yingxue. At first, they were all intrigued by this novel method of blood testing they had never heard of before, and being able to carry out the experiment themselves was of great significance. After a quarter of an hour of standing still, the results came out. The court physician excitedly announced, "This drop of blood melds with the Empress Dowager's blood. She must indubitably be the Empress Dowager's biological granddaughter. Quick, show it to me." The Empress Dowager couldn't wait to know the result. The wet nurse promptly helped her up. With Qin Ruli's permission, the court physician first brought the items to the side of the Empress Dowager. Seeing 1 drop of blood merge with her own, the Empress Dowager was tearfully moved, but the expression on her face stiffened when she saw the name labeled on the microscope slide. Qingge sensed something was amiss and immediately went to check the results by the Empress Dowager's side. Her lips tightly pursed. She said nothing. Qin Mayan called out loudly, "Bring it here so your highness and imperial brother can take a look." The court physician then knelt by Qin Ruli and Qin Mayan with the tray in hand. The expressions on both their faces were equally complex, especially when Qin Mayan looked at Su Yingxue. His gaze carried a sense of regret. How could this be? It should have been Yingxue. Qin Mayan murmured softly, unable to believe it. Su Yingxue suddenly sensed something. That result seems to have a problem. Chu Yihan also felt it, but he didn't speak rashly. Everyone had seen the result. Everyone except Su Yingxue and Shun Yu. Shun Yu was still on tenterhooks until the Empress Dowager stood up, walked over to her, and extended a hand, saying warmly, "Child, I have wronged you. You are indeed the one connected to me by blood." Shun Ye's heart almost couldn't contain its excitement, but she quickly controlled her emotions, merely covering her face and weeping bitterly, putting on a heartbroken appearance. "Imperial grandmother, Zhao knows. The truth will eventually be clear to the world." Su Yingxue. She couldn't snatch away everything that belonged to her. The identity of a Great Wei Dynasty princess was hers. Su Yingxue bit her lip. How could this be? Could there have been foul play? Her sharp gaze immediately shot towards Qingge and the court physician. One collected the blood, and the other verified it. Who would deliberately tamper with the results? Chu Yihan's brows furrowed tightly. His oppressive gaze landed on Qingge. Qingge stood up at once. "What? Are your highness the 9th prince and his wife doubting me, the princess?" Shen Yu hits the wall under the watchful eyes of the public. The court physician dared not tamper with anything. Chu Yihan said coldly, his oppressive gaze piercing through Qingge. Between the court physician and Qingge, only Qingge was the most suspect. "Chu Yihan, do not make baseless accusations against my mother. She has always been fair and would never make a mistake with the results." Although Qin Mayan couldn't accept the outcome, he believed in his mother and couldn't think of any reason she would err. "Chu Yihan, the imperial family of the Great Wei Dynasty respects you, but that doesn't mean you can insult my aunt, the eldest princess of Great Wei." Qin Ruli's face was filled with indignation. The imperial family of the Great Wei Dynasty always treated each other with mutual respect and affection, and did not allow outsiders to interfere. Seeing the conflict between the Qin brothers and Chu Yihan escalating, the Empress Dowager spoke out. "Enough. The 9th prince means well and bears no ill intent. Now that the results are out, Zhao is indeed my own granddaughter, so let's put an end to this commotion." Although she recognized Shan Ye's identity, her fond gaze still lingered on Su Yingxue. "She looks just like my Zheng. Kneeling at the Empress Dowager's feet, Shun Yu clenched her teeth in silent hatred. The Empress Dowager still held onto her fondness for Su Yingxue. If she had another trick up her sleeve, Shun Yu would still find it difficult to cope. Resolutely, she stood up, holding her skirt, and cried softly, "I know I am not as beautiful as Miss Su, nor do I possess her noble status. It's clear Zhao is not worthy of this prince's title. Better for Zhao to seek my mother in the netherworld." With those words, she violently rushed toward a nearby pillar. Bang! Blood splattered everywhere. The Empress Dowager covered her heart in alarm. Zhao! Zhao! Cousin! Qin Ge and Qin Ruli hurried over too, lifting her up to take her away and calling for the court physician to treat her, causing a frantic bustle in the Funing Palace. Only Qin Mayan approached Su Yingxue and said in a low voice, "Yingxue, let me take you back to the palace to rest for now. It's not suitable for you to stay in the palace any longer." At this moment, Qin Ruli was preoccupied with the suicide attempt of Shunyu, temporarily forgetting the predicament between Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue, which also helped avoid some conflicts. Su Yingxue was about to say something when Chu Yihan pulled her into his embrace. His eyes were cold, and his words carried an innate authority. "There's no need to trouble yourself, Your Highness. I will protect the princess. Chu Yihan, this is the Great Wei dynasty, do not overstep." Qin Mayan snorted coldly, still unwilling to let go of the suspicion Chu Yihan had towards his mother earlier. But Chu Yihan, holding Su Yingxue, walked away. They just left like that. Su Yingxue did not turn back to look at him again. A sense of disappointment flooded Qin Mayan's heart. His dejected figure was noticed by Qin Ge. Qin Ge, observant and detail-oriented, knew she hadn't misjudged the situation. Qin Mayan must have feelings for Su Yingxue. But now, Su Yingxue was already Chu Yihan's princess. Qin Ge's brow furrowed tightly at the thought. The lapse in focus she had experienced earlier still lingered in her mind. It was as if she had done something instinctively, yet now she couldn't remember it at all. Her body had never exhibited such strange symptoms before. It was as though a man's voice had issued her a command in her mind. "What's wrong with mother?" Qin Mayan turned around, noticed Qin Gu standing behind him with an inscrutable expression, and quickly showed concern. Qin Gu extended her hand for him to hold and said, "Mu Yin, come with mother." Shen Yu was being treated in a side hall while Qin Gu and Qin Mayan went to the courtyard in the palace. Qin Gu dismissed the palace servants nearby and went alone with Qin Mayan. Her scrutinizing gaze fell upon him. "Did you refuse to marry Zhao Hua because of this Su Yingxue? You like her." The quirks of Qin Ge's tone was very certain, and whether it was her gaze or a woman's intuition, both were accurate. "Yes, this son loves her deeply," Qin Mayan confessed without intending to hide it. Qin Gu took a sharp breath. "If Su Yingxue truly were your cousin, and were as yet unmarried, your fondness for her would be understandable, and mother would never stand in your way. But what you saw today, she is not your cousin, and may even be suspected of impersonation. All this aside, most importantly, she's already married, to the 9th Princess Consort. Do you not know what kind of man Chu Yihan is? Do you intend to compete with him for a woman?" Qin Mayan clenched his right fist, his eyes stubborn and resolute. This son does not wish to compete with him. If Yingxue is willing, this son is prepared to go through fire and water to marry her. But now that Chu Yihan treats her well, this son can only wait. Wait until one day she needs him, then he will reappear by her side. "What? You intend to wait for her?" Qin Ge felt her blood boiling. Wait for her to be discarded by Chu Yihan? Or wait for her to come seduce you again, once she no longer upholds her marital fidelity? Mayan, do you realize what you're saying? You are the emperor's own brother, the Scarlet Flame King of the Great Wei dynasty, a prince exalted above 10,000 people. How can you be so ruled by your emotions? Mother, this son likes her and wishes to protect her. As for cousin Zhao Hua, you and the others may decide on the marriage arrangement. This son will marry her as the princess and will surely provide for her all her life. But this son does not have feelings for her. Please inform Imperial Grandmother and cousin on behalf of this son, he said. Qin Mayan's expression was cold and stern, passion burning within his chest. As a man standing tall and upright, he was unable to marry the woman he loved, but his heart, it must belong to her. Zhao Hua would have to marry him, and he could take responsibility, keeping her in the prince's mansion all her life, but he would never love her. Qin Gu was so angry she could smoke from 7 orifices. But she knew her anger could not sway Qin Mayan in the slightest. The passionate blood of the Great Wei dynasty's men ran through his veins, and not even his imperial brother could change that. Qinggu had no choice but to first visit Xinyu. Along the way, she was reminded again of the voice of that man in her mind. In the palace, Su Yingxue rested her elbows on the railing, gazing at the beautiful mountains and waters of the courtyard, her face full of confusion. Why would it be like this? The eldest princess and Shun Yu should have no dealings of interest, and Xin Yu couldn't possibly drive her to do this. But why did things turn out like this? Behind her, Chu Yihan poured a cup of tea, with a curling fragrance rising, the entire room filled with a faint tea aroma, refreshing and pleasing. As she breathed in, it penetrated her body, like a cool breeze in the forest. Chu Yihan brought the tea to Su Yingxue, and even personally fed it to her mouth. The possibility of being manipulated by someone cannot be ruled out. That Mu Fei is problematic. Being manipulated, Su Yingxue thought of how she inexplicably left the ninth prince's mansion. Was she not controlled by Wu Daotu? Wu Dao's drug. And this person, Mu Fei, indeed radiated strangeness in every aspect. Su Yingxue remembered their meeting at the ghost market. Had he detected her identity then? She shared this suspicion with Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan spoke indifferently. He is from the Great Wei dynasty, and may have some connections to your mother. Otherwise, that piece of blue-scale jade would not have been easy to take. Moreover, he is a man of the ghost market. If he wanted Wu Dao's drug, it wouldn't be unattainable. Clasping Chu Yihan's hand, Su Yingxue took another sip of tea and said, "Then we should capture Mu Fei for interrogation." Chu Yihan pinched the soft flesh on her cheek with his right hand and said, "Not urgent. Let's wait for the shadow guards to report." Granting marriage to Qin Mayan, she thought Mu Fei would demand money and valuables, just like her parents did. But Mu Fei let out a series of chilling laughter. Ha ha, ha ha ha, what are you laughing at? The laughter made Shan Ye's skin crawl without reason. The reward I want, you better pay close attention. I want you to secure your place as princess, not giving Su Yingxue the slightest opportunity. Otherwise, your end will be the deception of the imperial family, and you'll be torn apart by 5 horses. Mu Fei leaned in close to Shun Yu, his cold voice echoing in her ears, making her envision a horrifying scene. A dark path completely lined with menacing skeletons. She grasped her chest in fright, but once Mu Fei left her, she finally saw clearly that this was just the splendid side hall of Funing Palace. There were no such ominous skeletons. It was just her mind playing tricks on her. Mu Fei reminded her, play the role of the princess well in the palace, win over the Empress Dowager, and don't let Su Yingxue get close to her. When the time is right, make them enemies of Su Yingxue. He was so terrifying that Shun Yu couldn't help but purse her lips in agreement. I understand. As for your parents, I advise you to deal with them sooner rather than later, else they will surely become a stumbling block for you. Mu Fei's voice reverberated in her mind. Shun Ye's heart trembled fiercely. Those were her biological parents after all. Was she really expected to kill them? But then she thought, how useless they were, nearly exposing her. If they were to live and stay in the palace, they would inevitably mess things up again. Without her identity as the princess, she wouldn't just be unable to go back to selling fish, but her very life would be in jeopardy. No, I will not let anyone take what's mine. All of this, it's all mine. Xin Yu gazed greedily at the wealth of the palace, a hint of ruthlessness flashing in her eyes. Once Shan Ye's identity was confirmed, the Empress Dowager showered her with even more affection, sending treasures and silver jewelry flowing towards her like water, letting her ask for anything she wished, as if she wanted to pluck the moon from the sky for her. But Shun Yu always appeared sickly and aloof, showing little happiness. The Empress Dowager thought, is Zhaoder still worried about your origins? As for the 9th Princess Consort, I think she is a reasonable person and has not entered the palace again. The matter of the identity must be a misunderstanding. The Empress Dowager felt regret over Su Yingxue, but the matter of blood relationships couldn't be changed, so regret was all it could be. Hearing her say this, Shen Yu meekly responded on the surface, yes, the 9th Princess Consort will definitely not compete with me for the title of the princess. What Zhaoer cares about even more is the blood relationship with the imperial grandmother. After all, imperial grandmother has been without a mother for so many years, and I haven't been able to see my mother either. As she spoke, she covered her face and cried, drawing out all the pain in the Empress Dowager's heart. The Empress Dowager's heart ached and she shed tears, treating her even more tenderly. She wanted to give Xinyu everything she had. She thought about her old age and the possibility that her eyes might close before long, and that Zhao Hua, not yet married, would have no one to look after her. So she summoned Qin Gu and Qin Mayan to her side and brought up the subject of an arranged marriage again. Qin Gu had no objections, as marrying another granddaughter cherished by the Empress Dowager to Qin Mayan would further secure his position in both the imperial family and in the court. As for Qin Mayan, he was expressionless and simply said, "I shall comply with the Empress Dowager's wishes." His willingness to marry Xinyu brought great comfort to the Empress Dowager. Qin really drafted a decree, and on the same day, it was proclaimed to the world. In the previous days, when she slept with Chu Yihan, he would either press down on her or insist on holding her as they fell asleep. She found it difficult to turn over, feeling as though only a small part of the bed was hers. Now that Chu Yihan was gone, she finally didn't have to endure being pinned down, and would not wake up with a sore back and aching waist the next morning. But at night, there were always uninvited visitors. Princess Zhao Hua has arrived. The voice of a palace maid rang from outside her chamber. Su Yingxue got up from the bed and slightly raised an eyebrow. To think she has come at this hour. If Xinyu was looking for her, it certainly wouldn't be for anything good. But Su Yingxue was not one to shrink from trouble. She dressed herself and rose to meet Xinyu just as she entered. Her palace maids opened the doors for her. With a mocking curl of her lip, Su Yingxue said, "Princess Zhao Hua holds such a noble status. How can you be so ill-mannered as to barge into someone else's chamber unannounced? You must be used to it from all those years as a pauper, right? Those who have risen from nothing to a phoenix's perch detest nothing more than the reminder of their days as a crow in distress." Xinyu was the typical case. At the mention of the word pauper, her expression turned sinister as she wished she could tear Su Yingxue into pieces there and then. "Su Yingxue, do you think you can do as you please just because you consider yourself noble? This is the Great Wei Dynasty, and you are living in a Wei Dynasty palace. I, as princess, can have you expelled at any time, or have you killed." Xinyu falls to his death lease. Shan Ye's eyes were bloodshot, set against her pale little face, which emanated an eerie aura. How could Su Yingxue be afraid of her? She arched her picturesque brows, her demeanor relaxed and at ease. "If you could kill me, would you need to find me? The knife would already be at my neck, right? Coming here to make threats is something only those who are powerless would do." "You." Shan Ye's psyche was firmly gripped by her words. She stepped back several paces to the balcony, where the night wind howled, lifting her skirts. She glared at Su Yingxue with cold eyes. "Do you think you can succeed? Everything that belongs to me, you can't take it away." "It's everything that belongs to me. You can't take it away." Su Yingxue pointed at her, correcting her. "Is that so? The ninth prince has left. Do you think you alone can accomplish anything significant?" Shun Ye's lips curled into a smug smile, her eyes filled with malice. Su Yingxue observed her position. She gradually retreated closer to the railing. The chamber she was staying in was on the second floor. Shun Ye's arriving late at night must have been an attempt to frame her. Su Yingxue dashed forward to grab Xinyu, but numerous hidden weapons were suddenly shot towards her. She quickly pulled out her red jade soft whip to defend herself. Bang, bang, bang. She knocked all the hidden weapons to the ground, preventing any from injuring her. But Xinyu fell from the railing, screaming, "Ah, ninth princess consort, please spare me." Thud. Shun Ye's entire body crashed to the ground, with a pool of blood forming behind her. The palace maids who had followed her, waiting downstairs, were already screaming in panic. "Ah, princess, princess, please wake up." Su Yingxue leaned over the railing to look outside, allowing the palace maids to clearly see her face. One of the palace maids beside Xunyu pointed at her and shouted, Ninth Princess Consort. It was the ninth Princess Consort who pushed the princess down. She is trying to murder the princess. Someone come quickly, go and inform the Empress Dowager. Within the imperial palace, all who were originally at rest were stirred into commotion again because of Shenyu. Shenyu's injuries were grave. The court physician said her life might be in danger. The Empress Dowager fainted upon hearing the news and was supported back to her chamber to rest. Qin Mayan received the news and hurriedly rushed into the palace. His mother, Qin Gu, was busily attending to both sides, while Qin Ruli stood outside the chamber with a gloomy expression. Su Yingshu really knows no gratitude. If something happens to cousin and imperial grandmother, I will surely kill her. Imperial brother, this matter must not have been done by Yingshu. She's not like that. There must be some misunderstanding. Qin Mayan quickly defended. His eagerness to protect Su Yingshu, unbothered by the condition of the Empress Dowager and Shenyu, angered Qin really greatly. Mu Yin, what is wrong with you? Imperial grandmother and cousin are in such a dangerous state, and you don't show any concern, yet you care so much for that outsider. How can Su Yingshu be mentioned in the same breath as our kin? Imperial brother, I'm just speaking on the basis of facts. Even if Yingshu isn't our cousin, she's a kind-hearted woman and would never harm anyone. Zhao Hua going to find her in the middle of the night is already odd. Doesn't that suggest Zhao Hua has an ulterior motive? Nonsense. Qin Ruli, furious, punched Qin Mayan, causing him to stagger. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, but Qin Mayan, enduring the pain, still insisted, I trust Yingshu. She wouldn't hurt anyone. As for Imperial Grandmother, it's because Zhao Hua is sick. We must wait for Zhao Hua to awaken and properly interrogate her. Qin Mayan's stance was resolute, but in Qin Ruli's eyes, this was nothing but being bewitched by Su Yingshu. Mu Fei steps in to save the Prime Minister Lise. Wei Ju clenched his fist in salute. Yes, I will obey the command. Qin Mayan went to report back to Q and Ruli, who immediately wanted to interrogate Su Yingshu. Qin Mayan advised him, Imperial brother, it's better to wait until after you've met with the Imperial Grandmother and Zhao Hua before making any decisions. The incident of Zhao Hua falling has too many suspicious points. If Yingshu wanted to kill her, she wouldn't need to be so foolish. With her superb medical skills, there are countless ways to kill someone without detection. Qin Ruli, listening to Qin Mayan, felt a headache coming on. It seems to me that your entire heart is set on Su Yingshu, to the point where you'd wish to become a suit of armor for her to wear, impervious to sword and spear. Every word and deed did nothing but favor Su Yingshu. It was simply madness. Qin Mayan made no comment. After all, his stance was clear. With him around, no one could harm Su Yingshu. Shenyu's illness had been tormenting her all night, with the court physicians at a loss. It wasn't until Mu Fei stepped in that Shenyu's life was saved. The Empress Dowager awoke and, upon hearing the news, was so moved that she wept profusely, and awarded Mu Fei plenty of gold, silver, and jewels. Mu Fei appeared neither arrogant nor humble, and simply said with a light smile, the princess' injuries are quite complex, but since I was the one who saved her, I feel obliged to see it through. I dare to ask to care for the princess until she has fully recovered. There's nothing wrong with that. With your excellent medical skills taking care of Zhao and ensuring her recovery, I will certainly reward you generously. The Empress Dowager agreed immediately. Qin Gu also said, once Princess Zhao Hua has recovered, I will speak to the Emperor on your behalf, bestowing upon you a title that will ensure you have no worries about food and clothing in the future. I thank the princess, Mu Fei replied. In front of them, Mu Fei was the picture of humility. But the more humble he appeared, the stranger Qin Mayan found him. He approached Mu Fei and, from a height, interrogated, Your Highness has investigated you. You come from the Ghost Market, a place full of desperados. The matter of you finding the blue scale jade must be thoroughly verified. When did you learn medical skills that could save Zhao Hua? Mu Fei's lips quirked at an angle, a hint of roguishness spilling forth. Your Highness, should you not be more concerned about your cousin, Princess Zhao Hua's condition? This counter-questioning left Qin Mayan quite displeased. It's not your place to question me. Speak. How did you come upon the blue scale jade and ascertain Zhaohua's whereabouts? What exactly happened when Zhaohua fell from the palace? I am but a commoner devoted to serving the Great Wei dynasty. If your highness harbors such doubts, it is best I no longer remain in the palace, Mu Fei proclaimed. Saying so, Mu Fei attempted to take his leave. The Empress Dowager hastily called out, "Stay where you are." She halted Mu Fei and then turned a sharp gaze towards Qin Mayan. Mayan, what is the meaning of this? You don't inquire after Zhao Hua's condition, but instead question her life-saving benefactor? Are you suspecting this Mu Fei of harming Zhao? It was clearly that Su Yingxue who plotted against her. The more the Empress Dowager had previously adored Su Yingxue, the greater her disappointment was now. That Su Yingxue likely used her beauty to gain sympathy from me, seeking to steal Zhao's identity. Such a scheming and malicious woman, yet she is the 9th princess consort of the great Cheng dynasty. How can you be deceived by her? Imperial grandmother, she would not deceive me, I assure you. Yingxue is truly not a villain. She wouldn't harm Zhaohua, Qin Mayan protested. Enough. The Empress Dowager, livid with anger, exclaimed, if you plead for Su Yingxue once more, do not come to see me, your imperial grandmother, again. Get out. Throughout the process, Shunyu was in so much pain that she dared not even cry out loud. Because Mu Fei reminded her that if she attracted attention and was discovered, she would be walking a path to her own death. Now that she and Mu Fei were in the same boat, she had no choice but to follow his lead. However, she attributed all the excruciating pain she was enduring to Su Yingxue's account. It was all her fault. Why did she have to appear in the Great Wei? Why did she have to compete with her for the identity of the princess in the Great Wei dynasty? Had she not appeared, how could she possibly suffer like this? It was all Su Yingxue who caused her harm. Shunyu bore the agony of flesh and bone being torn apart, biting down hard on her teeth. Su Yingxue, I will make sure you never recover. She must die. 2 hours later, Mu Fei washed his hands in a copper basin. It was already the 14th or 15th basin of bloodied water. After cleaning his hands, he told Shunyu, no one must see your face for the next 3 days. Wait for me to remove the stitches, and by then, you will have a face identical to that of eldest Princess Qinzheng. Mu Fei also has a gentle side lease. Shunyu hid behind the curtain, not daring to move an inch. Understood. With each word she spoke, her entire face painfully twitched. She didn't even dare to let her tears fall. While Mu Fei had not yet departed, a palace maid came to report that Shan Ye's adoptive parents wanted to see her. Shunyu had no desire to see them, knowing they had come not for money, then it must be to discuss leaving the imperial palace. Her gaze shifted to Mu Fei, a ruthless light flashing across her eyes, and she simply told Mu Fei, take them away and say I allowed them to leave the palace to go home, then dispose of them. Oh, these are your biological parents, Mu Fei said, his laughter tinged with mockery. A wave of sorrow surged in Shan Ye's heart, but it was quickly replaced by her desire for glory and riches. Her expression was icy. What use do I have for such parents? They will only hold me back. I am to be the princess of the Great Wei dynasty. There's no point in keeping them around. Make sure you handle it cleanly. Consider it mutual assistance between the two of us. Mu Fei curled his lips. All right, there are plenty of ways to kill people in the ghost market. Grinding their bones to dust, turning them into human pigs, it's all possible. Human? What exactly is a human pig? Shunyu was taken aback. Mu Fei was all too happy to educate her. It's when you chop off someone's limbs while they're still alive, gouge out their eyes, cut off their ears, then slice off their tongue, and afterward, submerge them in a jar of medicinal liquor. Keep them alive, feed them a little food every day, periodically change the medicinal liquor, just like a flower in a pot, keeping them alive. What? Shan Ye's very soul trembled with fright. How could there be such a twisted method? Wasn't this making life worse than death? To care for a person like a plant, and yet, to keep it alive. Just thinking about it made Shunyu break out in a cold sweat. You can't bear to do it? Mu Fei leisurely enjoyed watching Shan Ye's terrified expression, as if to him, this was some sort of amusing affair. No, I can't. She quickly shook her head in denial. Just take them away. Do whatever you want. They'll leave it to you. So your biological parents are part of a deal you made with me. Mu Fei chuckled softly. Yes. Being able to trade useless people was better than anything else. The thought of the human pig one Mu Fei had described often made Shenyu feel nauseous, and she suffered from nightmares night after night. Mu Fei took Shan Ye's parents away, telling them he was granting them silver trading items to return to the Great Qing dynasty. These naive commoners simply followed him. Once outside the imperial palace, he took them back to a dilapidated old house. From the outside, it looked like a sealed-off official residence, very worn down. But inside, the house had already been cleaned and arranged. Alt Jing, dressed in a cherry blossom pink long gown, stood in the courtyard. From afar, when she saw Mu Fei return, she ran up to him with small, quick steps and cheerfully called out, "Master, you're back?" Her open and bright eyes seemed to scatter stars around, their glittering specks of light bringing a sense of ease to one's heart and mind. Mu Fei gestured to her, and Jing obediently stood before him, her voice clear. "Master, you've been gone for several days. Alt Jing has missed you so much. The house has been cleaned, and all of your belongings have been put in place. Please, go and rest a while." Mu Fei rubbed Alt Jing's head, a rare warmth flickering in his sinister eyes. Alt Jing is really good. Behind him, Shan Ye's parents, crouching slightly, voiced their confusion. "Young Master Mu, weren't you going to give us gold and jewels and let us go? Why have you brought us here? What is this place?" Want to share life and death with the Master Lease. Seeing her distress, Mu Fei put away his folding fan and set it aside. "Don't worry, I just happened to be hungry." Jing couldn't cook or make pastries. She only learned after coining to his side. Yet, as Mu Fei ate the pastries, his mood remained calm, and gradually, he finished a plateful of them. Jing looked at the empty plate, incredulous. "Master, don't they taste bad?" Mu Fei patted her head. "They're not bad. Don't doubt yourself. Master." Jing's eyes suddenly reddened, and a restrained joy emerged. "Master, you're too kind to me. These pastries, they're really not good." If it hadn't been for an extreme hunger, she was afraid even she couldn't have finished them, but Mu Fei ate them all. Seeing her tears, Mu Fei pulled her to his side and carefully wiped her face. "Why are you crying?" "I'm just happy. You really are good to me, Master. I've never had anyone treat me so well before." Jing's lips puckered as tears rolled down one by one. She remembered her own past. "I never knew who my parents were. Ever since I have memories, I was scavenging food from garbage heaps. Later I was captured and enslaved, nearly died several times, and when I was sold to the ghost market, had you not bought me, Master, I would have been tortured to death long ago. You are the first person to ever be kind to me." Moreover, she felt that Mu Fei doted on her. He killed all the female slaves that had been sold with her, leaving only her alive. He made sure she was well-fed and well-dressed, and took her with him everywhere he went. Even at night, he would have her sleep behind the screen to keep watch. A dull pain throbbed in Mu Fei's heart. "Just this is being good to you?" "Yes, Master. You're really very good." Alt Jing couldn't help but lean into his embrace, her delicate, tender arms encircling Mu Fei's waist. Jing wants to be with Master for a lifetime, to serve Master. Is that so?" Mu Fei's lips trembled slightly. He, a man despised for his misdeeds, stained and unworthy, also had someone who would be so loyal, desiring to be with him for a lifetime? "Yes, Master. Don't you have the heart-eater goo?" Alt Jing lifted her head from Mu Fei's embrace, her eyes spar-eyeing. Mu Fei nodded. "This thing is not good. After two people take it, if one dies, the other cannot live. Jing wants to take it with Master. This way, whether Master lives or dies, Alt Jing can always be with Master." Alt Jing's clear eyes glistened like the purest glaze, devoid of any impurity. Her purity made Mu Fei avert his gaze from her eyes. He pushed Jing aside. Never say such foolish things again. Jing thought Mu Fei was angry and quickly knelt before him. Yes, Jing understands her mistake. I won't dare to say it again. Master shouldn't be angry. The heart-eater goo can be harmful to the body. Jing does not dare to hurt Master. It's not. Mu Fei almost wanted to tell her that the heart-eater goo wouldn't harm the body, and even if it did, he had ways to counteract it. He had plenty of good medicine here. But he couldn't be so selfish as to have Jing take the heart-eater goo with him. Mu Fei took a deep breath, letting out a long sigh. Enough, you may go. Order someone to deal with the two in the firewood shed, to kill them once they've had enough. Mu Fei frowned in agitation. Jing trembled slightly as she got up. She wanted to ask Mu Fei if it was something she had said wrong that had made him angry. Trapping the Grand Empress Dowager Lise, but seeing Mu Fei pinching the bridge of his nose, she didn't dare to speak up. However, those two people in the firewood room, Jing could tell that they were not people from the black market, but ordinary commoners. The woman might have been a bit sharp-tongued, but she didn't deserve to be killed. After all, before their master killed someone, he would first torture them to the brink of death. She mustered her courage to relay the order, merely stating that the master wanted to torture them but did not mention letting them die. This could, for the time being, spare their lives. Even if they were turned into human pigs and kept alive, at least, they could still be alive. Xinyu was recovering well in the palace, and after 3 days, she was waiting for Mu Fei to come and remove her stitches so she could finally see her face. However, a major incident had occurred at Funing Palace, throwing her into panic, and she had no choice but to seek Mu Fei's early entrance into the palace. Mu Fei, seeing her head wrapped like a mummy, responded coldly, "The time isn't up, and your hurry is useless." Xinyu struggled to get out of bed, grasping her head, eyes filled with urgency. "Do you think I want this? Ever since you left that day, cousin has been kneeling in Funing Palace, begging the imperial grandmother to see the truth. The imperial grandmother has been angered to illness several times." Mu Fei's lips curled in a mocking sneer. "What does it have to do with you? For every day you are sick and unseen. The Empress Dowager won't let Su Yingxue off the hook. The more Qin Mayan kneels and begs, the more the Empress Dowager despises Su Yingxue. This is in your favor, so what's there for you to be anxious about? Do you think I want this? I heard from the palace maids that my cousin has stubbornly knelt for 2 days and nights, begging the imperial grandmother to meet Su Yingxue. He's even threatened to resign his title of Your Highness to coerce her. The imperial grandmother has compromised and agreed to see Su Yingxue herself." Xinyu was so upset that her head spun, nearly unable to hold up her head as large as a bucket. Mu Fei's eyes narrowed slightly, and a ruthless glint spilled out. The Empress Dowager must not be allowed to see Su Yingxue at any cost. Su Yingxue's medical skills made it difficult for anyone to rest easy. Even within the imperial prison, there was no stopping her from being able to verify blood relations with the Empress Dowager. Mu Fei made a decisive move, pulled Xinyu in front of the mirror, and started removing her bandages. Xinyu was still somewhat perplexed. "Didn't you say that the bandages couldn't be removed before 3 days were up? Can you? Or can't you do it?" "Shut up." The fierce coldness overflowed from Mu Fei's eyes, terrifying Xinyu to the core. After removing her bandages, Mu Fei did some additional reinforcement. Although her face was visible before 3 days were up, the effect of the medicine wouldn't be very long-lasting. Xinye's face would collapse eventually. But what did that have to do with him? All he needed was to use Xinye's current face to stop the Empress Dowager. Xinyu, looking at her reflection in the mirror, couldn't come to her senses for a good while. Is this me? Why couldn't she recognize herself? There wasn't a trace of her original appearance to be found. She had become a completely different woman. And it must be said, this woman was too beautiful. Beautiful to the extent that even she couldn't help feeling inferior. Mu Fei yanked her up. "Stop the nonsense and quickly go stop the Empress Dowager. Don't allow her to see Su Yingxue. Even if Qin Mayan persists alone, you must accompany her and make her despise Su Yingxue even more, or else I will kill you." The knife in Mu Fei's hand was pressed against Shen Ye's neck, and she could feel that it was this very scalpel that had sliced open the skin on her face and remodeled her features. Now, she was scared for her life. She tensed all over. Understood. Her Jing'er. Lise, she would do her utmost. Seeing her leave, Mu Fei's eyes flashed with intense violence. He would definitely not allow Su Yingxue any chance to turn the tables. Qin Mayan, accompanied by the Empress Dowager, had already arrived at the entrance of the imperial prison. The Empress Dowager was elderly, and Qin Mayan could not rush her. He could only wait for her to slowly alight from the carriage and stand firm. As for him, riding the whole way, his knees, which had been knelt for 2 days and nights, were already numb with pain. When he moved to help the Empress Dowager, he himself staggered. Take it slow. The Empress Dowager stood firm and actually gave Qin Mayan a hand in support. Looking at his swollen knees, the Empress Dowager sighed softly. I really don't know what you're thinking. What's so good about this Su Yingxue? Qin Mayan said gravely, doesn't the imperial grandmother think she's good? She resembles Annie so much. Auntie was a gentle and kind woman, and so is she. The Empress Dowager's heart was suddenly blocked. Qin Zheng, because she was a kind woman, had been inadvertently kidnapped during the Lantern Festival and had been separated from her for so many years. This Su Yingxue. Enough. The Empress Dowager shook her head. When she first saw Su Yingxue, that face had also seemed familiar to her. For the sake of her obstinate grandson, she would go and listen to what she had to say. But before they could enter, they heard someone shouting loudly from behind. From the carriage, Imperial Grandmother, please wait for Zhao. Zhao. The Empress Dowager's attention was instantly attracted. The carriage that had been speeding along came to a stop, and Shen Ye's face appeared from within. The Empress Dowager's heart softened with pain. Oh, my dear Zhao, you're not yet recovered. How can you withstand such jostling? The Empress Dowager hurried to help her. After Shen Yu alighted from the carriage, she immediately knelt in front of the Empress Dowager, her eyes brimming with tears. Imperial Grandmother, Zhao has been unfilial, worrying you. Zhao is also concerned for you. Your precious health cannot endure the damp and cold of this imperial prison. It's easy for your legs to catch cold. Let's go back with Zhao. The Empress Dowager was touched and helped her up, when Qin Mayan spoke out to admonish her sternly. Since when is it your place to comment on the imperial grandmother's affairs? If you have an injury, you should be resting well in the palace. Otherwise, if you get hurt again, whom will you blame? Qin Mayan's eyes were sharp, scrutinizing Shen Yu as if he were an eagle eyeing its prey. Her appearance was truly strange. Chastised by Qin Mayan, Shen Yu felt both embarrassed and annoyed. Yet she had to maintain a frail appearance. Cousin is right to reprimand me, but Zhao is just worried about the Imperial Grandmother. The Imperial Grandmother is with your highness. What could possibly go wrong? Your intentions are rather odd. You've avoided the Imperial Grandmother for several days to heal your injuries, and as soon as your highness brings her out of the palace, you hastily follow. What are you really up to? Qin Mayan pressed her with question after question. Shen Yu was in utter turmoil but had to admit, Qin Mayan was indeed too astute. She showed no favor toward her cousin, treating her as an enemy, seeing right through her. If it weren't for Mu Fei's prior instruction, she would have revealed herself in front of Qin Mayan. Stabilizing her mind, she slowly raised her face, on the verge of speaking. Imperial Grandmother, Zhao is truly just worried about you. You, Jing'er, my dear Jing'er. The Empress Dowager, seeing Shen Ye's face, had her eyes immediately well up with tears. Wasn't this her cherished, coddled treasure, Jing'er? In the dream, Mother pitted my solitary and miserable existence in the palace, and I told her it was because Su Yingxue resembled her more than I did, and hence I was treated so. Mother was angry and blamed herself for departing this world too early, causing me to endure such hardships. If she were still here, she would definitely protect me. She said she wanted to change my appearance to look exactly like her, so that no one could replace me. As Shen Yu spoke, She lifted her tear-streaked face, showing her visage that greatly resembled Su Yingxue, close to the Empress Dowager's face. When I woke up, I found that my appearance had changed. It was my mother's spirit in heaven, blessing me. Shunye's pitiful state made the Empress Dowager even more heartbroken. She had originally not believed in spirits or Buddhism, but after Qin Zhang went missing, she set up a Buddhist hall in the Funing Palace, praying daily, believing that as long as she was sincere, her Zheng heir would definitely return. Shunye's tale about the dream made her half believe, but after returning to Funing Palace, the chief maid reported to her, Empress Dowager, something terrible has happened. The portrait of Princess Zheng in the Buddhist hall has been involved in an incident. Kill Su Yingxue. What has happened? The Empress Dowager hurried over, supported by Xinyu on her side. In the hazy, incense-filled Buddhist hall, the portrait of Qin Zheng, revered and treasured by the Empress Dowager, hung on the wall, had been mysteriously dampened. The face on the painting looked as if it had been crying. How could this be? The Empress Dowager commanded the painting be taken down, clutching it to her chest and weeping sorrowfully. My Zheng heir, have you come to me in a dream? Are you worried Zhao is being bullied? So you cried? Mother, it's all my fault for not being able to stay with you all the time. Xinyu also began to cry miserably. After the incident in the Buddhist hall, the Empress Dowager's favoritism towards Xinyu grew even stronger. She not only bestowed all her treasures upon Xinyu, but also allowed her to stay in the Funing Palace until her marriage, wanting her company every day. The Empress Dowager personally took care of Xinyu, administering medicine for her injuries, cherishing her like a treasure. Even Qin Ruli and Qin Gu showed exceptional affection towards Xinyu. For a time, Xinyu became the most esteemed person in the Great Way, unrivaled in prominence. Looking at the palace filled with bestowed treasures, Xinyu realized that all these rare and valuable items were things she had never seen before, not even daring to dream of them. She extended her hand to caress them, greed flickering despicably in her eyes. Her true nature was laid bare in an instant. Mu Fei walked in, fanning himself, and seeing her like this, he sneered, "Are you satisfied with just this?" Xunyu was startled, and she caressed her own smugly satisfied face subconsciously. What's there to be dissatisfied about? After a few days, I'll marry cousin, and then, I will not only be a princess of Great Way, but also the noble princess of the Scarlet Flame King. Even the former identity of Su Yingxue can't compare to me. What a phoenix among people. Even the immortals would envy her, wouldn't they? With Su Yingxue still alive, why would you become the Scarlet Flame King's princess? Mu Fei mocked coldly. Chu Yihan is already on his way back. Once he reaches Su Yingxue's side and learns that she has been imprisoned, he will be furious. Even if it means going to war, Su Yingxue might consider the lives of the civilians, but Chu Yihan, that war-loving man, will not. If he attacks the Great Way capital, what use will your title as princess be? Or maybe he wants to avenge Su Yingxue. Don't forget, although you have her face, you are nothing but an impostor, and Su Yingxue is the real princess. Mu Fei reminded her coldly. Shunye's heart, which had been floating on clouds, suddenly plummeted down, shattering into pieces. The truth revealed Lise. Qin Mayan hadn't neglected to intervene, but this time, even Qin Ruli didn't help him. Qin Ruli had his men block him. Then they brought Su Yingxue into the imperial palace, saying they were going to kill Su Yingxue in front of Xunyu to put her at ease. When Xunyu saw Su Yingxue, her head covered with a black cloth and still struggling desperately, a mocking curve formed on her lips. Su Yingxue, you too have reached this day, yet you are still going to die before me. She remembered when she first encountered Su Yingxue in the street. She was dressed in shabby clothes while Su Yingxue was resplendent and noble, like a fairy from the heavens. Even though she saved her father and gave her money, she refused to help her any further. She knew very well that her family was poor. She said she was fated due to their likeness, yet she stubbornly refused to see her again or offer her some wealth and honor. If only on that day outside the Marquis Manor she had been a little kinder to her, treated her like a sister. She would not have needed to come and compete with her for the identity of the princess, nor would she have thought of putting her to death. This was all the karma Su Yingxue had brought on herself. Xinyu was elated, feeling no shame for her actions. The Empress Dowager stood in the courtyard, her eyes sharp as daggers. Come, make your move, kill this person, to appease my Zheng heir's spirit in heaven. Qinggu watched the scene unfold before him, feeling somewhat reluctant. Mother, after all, Su Yingxue is the 9th princess consort. If Chui Han knew we killed her, I fear it might provoke a war between the two nations. It was one thing for Su Yingxue to die, but Chui Han was not someone to be trifled with. His reputation as the god of war of the 9 provinces was known to all. But the Empress Dowager was exceptionally resolute. The men of the Great Wei dynasty are brave and skilled in battle. Why would we be afraid of Chui Han? Come, make your move. There, Su Yingxue, gripped by the executioner, continued to struggle, unable to make a sound. The executioner sprayed white liquor on the blade, raised his hand, and the blade fell. Poochie, blood splattered everywhere. Su Yingxue's head severed from her body, her brain exploding outwards. Mu Fei was also in the Funing Palace, witnessing this scene with his own eyes. At the moment of Su Yingxue's death, the blood splashed onto his face, and his heart was exceptionally pleased. He couldn't help but burst out laughing loudly, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha ha. His laughter was so loud that it drew everyone's attention. Xinyu, finding Mu Fei's behavior strange, scolded him. What are you laughing at? In front of the imperial grandmother, you shall not be unrestrained. She thought to herself, what madness had Mu Fei succumbed to this time? She knew he was not normal, but she hadn't expected him to be this abnormal. Even if he was happy about Su Yingxue's death, he should be quietly pleased, not laughing out loud before everyone. Especially since the Empress Dowager's narrowed eyes were now fixed on him. Mu Fei, you lowly commoner, dare to be so impudent in front of me. Mu Fei wiped away the tears of laughter from his eyes and looked at the Empress Dowager with a mocking stature. Why shouldn't I dare be impudent? You old coot, I've long wanted to laugh at you. Now, I can do so openly and honorably. Impudence. Someone capture him for me. Qinggu bellowed, bold ruffian. My mother holds such a revered status. How dare you insult her so? Revered? Just an old hag who killed her own granddaughter. What is there to revere? Is it because she's going blind, or perhaps she's lost her brain? Mu Fei brandished his fan arrogantly, his delicate face growing increasingly inscrutable and bewitching. Mu Fei, you must stop speaking nonsense. Xinyu was startled by Mu Fei. Had he gone mad? How could he say such things in public? This was outright exposing her true identity. The one who died is not Su Yingxue Elise. Mu Fei didn't take Xinyu seriously at all. He approached the Empress Dowager, his expression gloomy, the smile on his lips wicked. Old hag, do you realize that the person you killed was actually your real granddaughter? What are you talking about? Qin Ge's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Mother's granddaughter is clearly Zhao. How could it be Su Yingxue? After mulling over the events of the past few days and being reminded by Mu Fei, Qinggu felt a chill down her spine. Has the eldest princess forgotten my voice already? The blood they swapped. Mu Fei deliberately lowered his voice, which rang out like a bell in Qin Ge's mind. Her eyes suddenly widened. It's you, Mu Fei. The voice I heard that day, it was yours. Was it you who made me switch their blood? That is to say, Su Yingxue was actually her sister's daughter. This Xiaohua is fake. And her. Had she become an accomplice to Mu Fei and Xiaohua? She helped them and killed Su Yingxue? No. Qinggu was so frightened by this realization that her legs trembled. If this was true, how could she face her sister? Mother, this Mu Fei must be mad. Qinggu was somewhat panicked and wanted to have Mu Fei dragged away. However, the Empress Dowager's eyes narrowed slightly as she stared at Mu Fei. Continue. I want to see what else you have to say. The calmness of the Empress Dowager at this moment was beyond Mu Fei's expectations, but as he looked at the corpse on the ground, he was fearless. considering that it would break your old heart and you'd die from sorrow. I don't mind telling you. It was I who used drugs to make the eldest princess have hallucinations. She personally switched the blood of Su Yingxue and Shunyu, leading to that misunderstood scene. The truth spoken by Mu Fei shattered Qingge's heart. She bitterly bit her teeth, filled with regret. Sister, I am sorry. She had actually done such a thing, caused such a huge misunderstanding, and killed Su Yingxue. So this shower by my side is fake, and Su Yingxue is the real one? The Empress Dowager's breathing hastened slightly as she grabbed Shunye's hand, facing Mu Fei. Xinyu panicked. Imperial grandmother. Don't believe his slanderous words. This Mu Fei. He's a lunatic. He's a man from the ghost market. How can his words be trusted? Xinyu knelt in front of the Empress Dowager, crying pitifully and miserably. Zhao is your true granddaughter. Hasn't my mother often come to you in dreams recently, asking you to take good care of me, to not let me suffer anymore? The Empress Dowager looked down at her. Those eyes which were once kind now emanated an unprecedented oppression. Young girl, I have never dreamed of your mother. Never dreamed of her. How could that be? You miss your daughter so much. You must have dreamed of my mother. Shunyu shook her head in panic and disbelief. Was she deceived by this old woman, the Empress Dowager? Mu Fei's eyes narrowed slightly, sensing something was amiss from the Empress Dowager's reaction. He stepped back, grabbed the head lying on the ground that had been chopped off, and forcefully pulled off the black cloth to reveal the face of an unfamiliar woman. This isn't Su Yingxue. Mu Fei's beautiful eyebrows furrowed tightly. You old witch, you had a premeditated plan? It wasn't Su Yingxue who died. He had been tricked. What? Su Yingxue is not dead? How can this be? Shunye's eyes widened as she crawled towards Mu Fei and snatched the head he was holding to take a closer look. Mu Fei escapes lease. You old hag. Mu Fei gritted his teeth, never expecting the Empress Dowager to be of such an advanced age and ill to boot, yet still possess such meticulous cunning. It was truly detestable. How dare you be so insolent? Qin Mayan, knife pointed at Mu Fei, said, You claim to be of the Great Wei dynasty, but who are you really to dare to oppose the imperial family, deceive my imperial grandmother, and plot against my cousin? Huh? Mu Fei scoffed, his eyes brimming with contempt. Qin Gu came back to her senses at his laugh. It was you who used me. You almost made me kill my sister's daughter. Thinking back on it made Qin Ge's heart tremble uncontrollably. Looking at Su Yingxue, who was alive before her, she couldn't help but shed tears. I'm sorry, Auntie almost caused your death. Auntie, you needn't blame yourself. You too were deeply harmed by them. The ones who harm others are these people with wicked hearts. Having said that, Su Yingxue drew her red jade soft whip and attacked Mu Fei. Mu Fei swiftly dodged, exhibiting exceptional lightness skill. Qin Mayan, from behind him, struck out. The blade whooshed through the air and, with a loud slash, opened a gash across Mu Fei's back. Damn it! Mu Fei glared at the two of them, his eyes bloodshot. Now he couldn't kill Su Yingxue, but his vengeance must be exacted. He risked the danger of encountering Qin Mayan's blade and attacked the Empress Dowager. A white powder flew from his sleeves, spreading towards the Empress Dowager like a fog. Grandmother, hold your breath. Don't inhale. Su Yingxue shouted loudly, but it was already too late. The Empress Dowager inhaled a large amount of the white powder, and even Qin Gu inhaled quite a bit. Both of them collapsed to the ground and passed out. Imperial grandmother. Mother. Qin Mayan quickly ran to their side and helped them up. He did not forget to instruct the palace guards behind him. Someone come, capture this traitor. Don't let him escape. Having bought some time by engaging Su Yingxue and Qin Mayan, Mu Fei quickly left the imperial palace and returned to the dilapidated Mu family estate. This place was originally his home, but it had been destroyed after the family was raided. Ah Jing, carrying a tray of freshly baked pastries, saw Mu Fei return and excitedly held them up to him. Master, I made these today. They should taste better than yesterday's. Please try them, master. Put them down and come with me. Mu Fei grasped Jing's hand tightly, his eyes deep in thought as if pondering something. A fleeting look of guilt crossed Jing's face. Had the master noticed something? She had secretly added something to the pastries. Put them down quickly. Mu Fei moved to throw away the pastries she made, but Jing protected them in her arms as if they were treasures. Master, please, don't throw them away. Jing will eat them to show you. She wolfed down 2 pieces of the pastries, mumbling unclearly, "See, master, they really do taste much better. Please, just try them." If it were any other female slave, Mu Fei would have smashed the pastries and killed her. Such a waste of time. But seeing the hope brimming in Jing's eyes, Mu Fei took the remaining pastries and rapidly ate them all. He had already delayed for the time it takes to drink a cup of tea. "All right, I've eaten them. Now hurry up." He pulled Jing with him towards the hidden passage in the house, which led directly to the ghost market. Once back in the ghost market, not even Qin Mayan could do anything to him. But there was a strange atmosphere in the secret passage. Mu Fei had many highly skilled martial arts slaves to protect him. Someone from the other end of the passage came to report, "Master, it's not good. The passage has been destroyed. Master, you must return." "The master won't harm me, Lise." Chui Han pulled her back. "Be careful of deceit. He and this female slave have something strange going on." Chui Han slightly furrowed his brows. Throughout the journey earlier, Mu Fei had been protectively guarding this female slave, and now he brought up Su Yingxue, as if he were waiting for her arrival. He couldn't allow Su Yingxue to come any closer. "Your Highness, Jing is someone who has shared life and death with me. She's still young and a simple-minded child at heart." Su Yingxue pleaded with her lips tightened, her concern evident. If it weren't for being sold to the ghost market and falling into Mu Fei's hands, how could she have become a female slave? She should be living like any other normal girl. Chui Han shook his head. "This female slave is Mu Fei's bargaining chip. He's waiting for you." Chui Han informed Su Yingxue, who clenched her teeth in force. "Mu Fei, you insidious villain. You had planned this all along, didn't you? You intended to use Jing, right?" "Of course. Why else would I sell this slave for no reason, keeping her by my side the entire time?" "Su Yingxue, you are a person of deep emotions and loyalty. A young girl who has shared life and death with you and is obedient. You wouldn't bear to let her just die like this, would you?" Mu Fei's eyes sparked a cold, sly smile as he concealed the schemes deep in his gaze. "No, not like this." Jing's neck was almost being crushed as she shook her head in tears. She couldn't believe her master would use her. He wouldn't. The master had always been so kind to her. He was kind to her. Jing, don't be afraid. I will save you." Su Yingxue spoke to comfort her, then glared at Mu Fei. "You think you can use Jing to escape? Do you think you could get away?" Chu Yahan's shadow guards had heavily surrounded the area, and countless imperial guards of Qin Ruli were guarding outside Yingdu. Even if Mu Fei grew wings, he would not be able to fly back to the ghost market. "You only have 2 choices. Let this young girl accompany me in death, or let me go. Otherwise," Mu Fei laughed menacingly, increasing the strength in his hand as he lifted Jing off the ground by her neck. "Ah, master." Jing's little face twisted in pain as she let out a pitiful whimper, begging Mu Fei for mercy. A flicker of reluctance passed through Mu Fei's eyes, but his hands persisted in tightening their grip. "Don't." Su Yingxue gritted her teeth in anger. "Fine, I'll let you go, but you must release Jing. Let go of her now." Su Yingxue turned and grabbed Chu Yahan's hand, a hint of urgency in her gaze. Saving Jing is what matters most. Capturing Mu Fei was not a difficult task. Qin Ruli's reach didn't extend to the ghost market, but she and Chui Han could upend the ghost market and drag Mu Fei out if needed. Chui Han nodded in agreement, all right. Her requests, he would never refuse. Mu Fei let Jing go. Su Yingxue yelled at him. Mu Fei quietly breathed a sigh of relief, his eyes holding an apology, then raised his hand and threw Jing out. If Su Yingxue hadn't caught Jing, the girl would have smashed into the rocks and undoubtedly shattered to pieces. But Mu Fei had carefully controlled the force in his hands, only turning to flee after seeing Su Yingxue catch Jing. Chu Yihan waved his hand to give the order. Chase? Yes, Your Highness. Emochi led a group of shadow guards and swiftly pursued. In the night, Su Yingxue held Jing. Seeing her neck bruised and purplish from Mu Fei's strangling, she spat out in disdain. Scum! Not even sparing you. Jing's lips quivered, unable to speak. But in her heart, she knew, Master would not harm me. Her master was the kindest person in the whole world to her. Su Yingxue and Chu Yihan together took the people back. The godlike grandson-in-law Lise, Nanny Fu brought over 2 goose feather pillows, which Su Yingxue used to prop up the imperial grandmother. Seeing her so diligent and busy, the imperial grandmother's eyes filled with even more affection. My precious granddaughter, you truly are wonderful. Su Yingxue nestled in her lap and acted like a spoiled child. Grandma, and my dear heart? The imperial grandmother gently patted her head and, noticing Chu Yihan standing not far away, smiled and waved him over. Grandson-in-law, come here and let this old woman take a good look at you. The title of grandson-in-law brought a noticeable ease to Chu Yihan's expression. He approached the imperial grandmother and bowed slightly. Greetings, imperial grandmother. Ah, such a good child. I must take a good look, my celestial grandson-in-law. What a wonderful person you are. The imperial grandmother had Nanny Fu bring over a frame with 2 lenses attached, which had 2 small claws at the back to hook over the ears, positioning the lenses directly in front of her eyes. Her blurry vision instantly became clear. Before her stood an astonishingly handsome man whose features seemed meticulously crafted by the heavens themselves, exuding an aura of someone destined to rule the world. His dark eyes were like glaze, cool and profound, sparking curiosity in others to delve into their profound depths. Standing tall, he was a cut above other men. The imperial grandmother thought to herself that in all of the Great Wei dynasty, only Qin Mayan could compare to Chu Yihan. But Chu Yihan possessed a temperament distinct from the impulsive and stubborn Qin Mayan. Having carefully observed Chu Yihan, the imperial grandmother had only one thought. This man should reign over the 4 seas, unite the world under his rule. He was, without a doubt, an emperor. Her beloved granddaughter had married such a rare man, and she was extremely satisfied, her smile warm and kindly. Good, what a good child. She extended her hand toward Chu Yihan. Seeing her hands tremble, Chu Yihan quickly supported them. Imperial grandmother, be careful, considerate and meticulous, excellent. With one hand holding Chu Yihan's and the other Su Yingxue's, the imperial grandmother, her eyes crinkled with wrinkles, was brimming with satisfaction. All these years of worry were not in vain. You two are doing quite well. Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue stayed by the imperial grandmother's side as she inquired about Qinzheng, also known as Long Shuli. Leaning against the couch, she looked wistful. After Zheng Er left Great Wei, she changed her name to Long Shuli. Su Yingxue nodded. Yes, Grandma. Mother is the genius doctor of the Great Qing dynasty, and was also named Princess Shuli by the former emperor. Her medical skills are unmatched in the world, truly impressive. Su Yingxue painted the glorious life of Long Shuli, and the imperial grandmother listened quietly. She had not expected her Zheng Er to be so remarkable. Just listening brought tears to her eyes. But why hasn't she ever returned to Great Wei to see me? Does she know how I've cried my heart out for her? The former emperor had died early, and she doted on this youngest daughter as if she were her heart and treasure. Yet who would have thought, during that year's reunion, when the imperial guard failed to protect her, she was taken captive and then disappeared all these years. Su Yingxue looked on as the imperial grandmother wept, feeling heartache yet daring not to tell her at this moment that when Qin Zheng was taken by Wu Dao, she had already been killed, and Long Shuli was not Qin Zheng. As she hesitated, Chu Yihan spoke clearly. My mother-in-law lost her memory after she was taken away. She had forgotten her hometown and relatives. If not for a twist of fate, Yingxue would have found it very difficult to return to Great Wei, but fortunately, all ended well. But, after all, she has served me for days on end, and since her return to the Great Way several months ago, every time she enjoyed my company at my knees, I felt she was still a dutiful child, even though she did what she did to you in order to retain her status. In the Empress Dowager's eyes, there was still a hint of reluctance. Grandmother, do you still remember her birth parents? Her parents. I'm not sure why they left the palace, and I didn't inquire much about them, the Empress Dowager replied. At the time, she was only concerned with having Mu Fei look after Shenyu. Now that she thought about it, those two must have been taken away by Mu Fei. Su Yingxue remarked, it's likely they've already met with misfortune. Mu Fei is a ruthless person. He wouldn't have left them be. Shenyu, who would even betray her own birth parents, doesn't deserve your kindness. In her heart, the Empress Dowager still harbored a sliver of hope for Shenyu. This lasted until Qin Mayan came to Funing Palace looking for Su Yingxue. Qin Mayan paid his respects to the Empress Dowager and also notified Qin Ruli to hurry over. Seeing their tense expressions, the Empress Dowager asked, My dear Mu Yin, what has happened? Have you caught that Mu Fei yet? I must thoroughly question him. Catching Mu Fei lease. It's not that. Mu Fei is being pursued by people from the Ninth Prince, and it seems he won't escape. Grandson has come to report to you another matter, which is about Mu Fei's background. Qin Mayan said in a low voice. Oh? Who exactly is Mu Fei, and what grudge does he have with the Great Wei dynasty that he must put Yingxue in a deadly situation? Qin Ruli's brows were knitted with rage. Qin Mayan solemnly said, He is the successor to the Imperial Guard commander, originally the young master of the Mu family. The Imperial Guard commander? Mu Ruffing? The Empress Dowager's expression instantly became lucid. An incident from over 20 years ago surfaced in her mind, and she muttered, That year, the Imperial Guard lost Jing'er, and in my rage, I ordered the execution of the entire Mu family, including the Imperial Guard commander Mu Ruffeng. That Mu Fei. So that's it. Grandmother ordered the extermination of the entire Mu family back then. Mu Fei escaped and ended up in the ghost market. That's why he wants to target me and grandmother. To have grandmother kill me by her own hand is revenge. The pieces fell into place in Su Yingxue's mind. Bang! Qin Ruli slammed his fist on the table, full of fury. Damnable. The loss of our young aunt was originally due to the negligence of the Imperial Guard commander. Having narrowly escaped death, he still dares to seek perverse revenge. I will have Mu Fei torn apart by 5 horses to set an example. Qin Mayan also said in a cold voice, Mu Fei truly deserves death. If Imperial Grandmother or Yingxue suffer the slightest harm, Your Highness will ensure he never recovers. We'll talk about that after he's caught. Compared to the indignation of the Qin Mayan brothers, Chu Yihan was exceptionally calm. He picked up the teacup in his hand, took a sip and remarked, He should be back soon. Master, Mu Fei has been captured. When Imochi came to report at Funing Palace and knelt down, he said, Mu Fei did not make it back to the ghost market before being intercepted by Pavilion Master's men. Your subordinate succeeded in capturing him. Chu Yihan nodded and turned to Su Yingxue. This person, he'll leave his fate to you. Before Su Yingxue could speak, Qin Mayan angrily said, Leave him to your highness. After I torture him to death, they'll crush his bones and scatter his ashes. Wait, your highness, please hand him over to me. I want to see him. There are some questions I'd like to ask. Su Yingxue persuaded. Qin Mayan, who was normally fierce and impetuous in all things, became inexplicably gentle in response to Su Yingxue's request. All right, he's yours. After Su Yingxue nodded her thanks, she returned to Chu Yihan's side. Chu Yihan took her to the old Mu residence. The answers you're looking for might be found here. Su Yingxue smiled. Hubby knows me best. With nobody around, Su Yingxue felt at ease calling him hubby. The old Mu residence had suffered a great calamity years ago and was in ruins, a testament to the grim past. The Imperial Guard was the royal family's defense, and back then, the Mu family was a noble family. They were executed for losing the young princess, and Mu Fei was innocent in that regard. However, this could not justify his becoming so ruthless and vicious later on. Su Yingxue found several rooms that had been lived in, some traces of being tidied up, and one room that should have been Mu Fei's bedroom. Emochi was still in this bedroom and had found several dresses that belonged to girls, which he found quite distasteful. This man's tastes really are strange. He looks like a woman and even wears women's dresses. Su Yingxue was grossed out by seeing these dresses as well. Only Chu Yihan glanced at the dresses and said indifferently, "These are not Mu Fei's." "Then whose are they?" Su Yingxue asked with a puzzled face. Could it be that there is someone else as twisted as him around Mu Fei? The human swine of Shun's father and mother Lise. You forgot about that young girl by his side? Chu Yihan poked Su Yingxue's forehead. Ah Jing. Su Yingxue remembered and cursed Mu Fei again. Ah Jing is pure-hearted. Yet Mu Fei exploited her to use as leverage to threaten me into escaping, utterly despicable. Chu Yihan didn't quite see it that way, but he hadn't settled on a conclusion. When they found the place where the firewood was kept, Emochi went in first to take a look, then came out and said, "It's quite disgusting inside, princess. Perhaps you should not go in." He almost threw up. Is it full of human pigs? Princess is as insightful as a deity. Emochi was somewhat impressed. The strong smell of alcohol inside led him to think there might be a cellar hidden within. But who would have known that once inside, he would see a series of wine jars, each containing a paralyzed person, all blinded and deafened, steeping alive in medicinal liquor. They could hardly be called human anymore. In that room of human pigs, Su Yingxue identified two familiar faces. She pointed and said, "Take these two back to the palace and present them to Shan Yu." Emochi did as she instructed. In the end, Su Yingxue went to the imperial prison to see Mu Fei. This place was as secure as a fortress of copper walls and iron barriers, and Su Yingxue was not worried he could escape. With Chu Yihan's shadow guards watching outside, even with Mu Fei's high martial arts skills, escape was impossible. But when Su Yingxue arrived, Mu Fei looked at her with scorn, as though he had been waiting for her. "You come at this hour? You've seen Shan Ye's parents already, and moved them back to the palace, right?" Mu Fei's sneer was chilling, his voice sinister like a demon from hell. He was covered in heavy shackles, but appeared utterly fearless. Su Yingxue sat before him, her expression calm. "Because the imperial grandmother killed your entire family, you endured in the ghost market all these years, just to plan your next moves, to either kill the imperial grandmother or have her kill me?" "Yes." Mu Fei scoffed coldly. "Too bad you are really too troublesome. Otherwise, that old woman would now be among those in the wine jar, and I would peel a piece of her flesh every single day, cutting for 365 days, making her life worse than death. Such pain would avenge the death of his whole family. No, even that is not enough. The imperial family of the Great Wei dynasty must die. They must all die, to join my Mu family, to join my parents and siblings in a mass grave." Mu Fei leaned against the wall, laughing maniacally, his eyes, once handsome, now bloodshot and wild. The Imperial Guard failed in their duty. Grandmother became furious. Perhaps she went too far. But you, having narrowly escaped death, should have lived properly, to continue the bloodline of your Mu family. But what have you become? How many times has your face been cut? Su Yingxue's brows furrowed, her lips curling into a mocking smile. "Live well?" Mu Fei laughed as if he heard the funniest joke. "Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. Live well? How does a slave live well in that sunless place of the ghost market?" He pointed to his own face, his sharp fingernails digging into the flesh, drawing a deep wound. As if feeling no pain, he was lost in his memories. "Indeed. My face has been cut by many knives, so many that I've lost count. Because that woman disliked my original appearance, Only by changing to suit her preferences could I earn her favor. Could I survive? Those years, my face was continuously under the knife. Many times I almost went blind, mad. But I dared not die. I feared that if I died, when I met my parents below, they would scold me for being so useless. Even vengeance for them, I could not achieve. Beg me 5 lease. Have you been so free recently? Have you already finished your work? Bai Ming Han glared at him angrily. Huang Fuyi immediately shook his head. No, I will go and complete it immediately. Huang Fuyi really didn't know what happened with his elder brother. He wasn't annoyed just now when he was rambling. But why does his mood change now when he speaks about Xiao Si and his first love's reunion? Did he get into trouble again? Arguing with Qing Xin? Huang Fuyi stood up to leave. He was sure, if he didn't leave, he would eventually get trashed by his elder brother. Stop! Bai Ming Han halted him. Huang Fuyi was about to open the office door, but once his elder brother had given orders, he could only obey. He turned around, forcing a smile, asked, "Older brother, any other order? Join me for a drink." Bai Ming Han stood up, took his coat, and headed out. Should we call second brother too? Knowing that something had happened, Waga Fuyi obliged, as drinking during the day was definitely not his elder brother's style. It was more like his own. He did not dare to resist and quickly ran to catch up. After having dinner by herself, Gu Qingxin returned to her small bedroom. She felt a slight pain in her abdomen, pulled out a bottle of medicine from her bag, poured out a pill from it, and swallowed it. Placing the medicine bottle back into her bag, she changed into her pajamas and went to take a bath. Warm water cascaded down over her head. She closed her eyes, enjoying the warmth of the water. The door was suddenly flung open, and before Gu Qingxin could open her eyes, she was pressed against the cold tiles. Opening her eyes, she saw Bai Ming Han's eyes, as black as a wolf's, and reeking of alcohol again. The water dripping from above soaked his hair, running down his adamant face, and dripped off his chin as he pinned her against the wall. Gu Qingxin quickly bit her lip and looked away. Bai Ming Han grabbed her chin, forcing her to look up. His lips, reeking of alcohol, came crashing down on hers. Gu Qingxin angrily pushed him away, but he only kissed her more forcefully. Bai Ming Han pressed her tightly against the cold tiles and claimed her. From the bathroom to the bedroom, Gu Qingxin didn't know how many times he took her. Although he wasn't as brutal as last night, she still felt exhausted. Bai Ming Han placed her on the bed, leaned down and kissed the tattoo on her lower abdomen. Gu Qingxin lay there, gasping. It seemed as if he was doing it on purpose, imprinting every inch of her body with his mark. The next day, Gu Qingxin was going to school when the bodyguard stopped her, saying that from today onward, she was forbidden to leave North Garden under the young master's orders. Gu Qingxin thought she had heard wrong. Was this Bai Ming Han's intention to imprison her again? She took out her phone and dialed Bai Ming Han's number, but the one who answered was Lian Qingrua. "I need to speak to Bai Ming Han. It's urgent." Gu Qingxin held the phone tightly, the anger inside her causing her chest to rise and fall rapidly. "Miss Gu, the CEO is in a meeting right now and can't be disturbed. Why don't you call him back after the meeting?" "Gu Qingxin, I'm allowed to go to the Shengming Corporation at least, right?" Gu Qingxin, annoyed, looked at the bodyguards beside her. Both of them exchanged glances, but none dared to decide. One of them took out his phone to call Yi Qi, asking for instructions. "Shen Yu personally killed his parents' lease. I was just returning to the palace and was about to see her." Su Yingshi's expression was cold and solemn. Shen Yu had been left in the dungeon of Funing Palace, and because her grandmother had a soft heart and didn't immediately kill Shen Yu, she was still struggling to survive. When Su Yingxue went down, she smelled a strong scent of medicinal liquor in the air. Shen Yu, curled up in a corner, started wailing at the sound of footsteps. "Don't come over. Don't come over. Don't come to claim my life." Go find Mu Fei. It was that madman Mu Fei who killed them all. It was him who killed them. Was it him who killed them? Or did you disregard the life and death of your own parents, using their lives in exchange for your glory and wealth? Suing Shue raised an eyebrow and sneered. Suing Shue? Hate flared in Shun Ye's eyes. It's all your fault, Suing Shue. You stole my identity, my cousin, and my glory and wealth. I'm going to kill you. She screamed maniacally and lunged at Suing Shue. But before she could touch her, she was whipped by Su Yingshi's red jade soft whip and sent rolling on the ground. Smack! The sound of the whip striking flesh was exceptionally crisp and loud. It hurts. It hurts so much. Shunyu writhed in agony on the ground, rolling toward the wine jars and knocking over two of them. Decomposing bodies fell out, and the half that was still emitting heat made woeful sounds beside Shinyu. Even though they couldn't form a word, their sounds seemed so full of suffering that it was heartbreaking to hear. Shinyu, on the brink of collapse, cried out and kicked her father's and mother's bodies away. She covered her ears. I can't hear. It's not you. It's not you. It was Mu Fei. It was Mu Fei who turned her parents into this. Why? Why didn't that madman Mu Fei just kill them outright? Instead of leaving them in this world in such a state, why torture her like this? Why torment her so? Die. Just die. Shunyu stepped on one of the corpses, trampling it desperately, mashing that half of the body into a bloody pulp. The other half, as if crying, emitted even more mournful sounds. Shenvu trembled with fear as she then crushed the other half of the body, silencing the bizarre noises from them. Only then did she feel slightly calmed down. She collapsed to the floor, her eyes hollow and lifeless. They're all dead. Finally all dead. All dead. No one would hold her back anymore. She could be her princess peacefully and enjoy her glories and wealth. Shinyu quickly crawled towards Suing Shue, kneeling before her and kowtowing incessantly. I'm sorry, Suing Shue. I shouldn't have harmed you. I shouldn't have impersonated you. But the imperial grandmother had feelings for me. I served her in your stead for months, and she cherished me so much. If you kill me, it'll break her heart. She'll be so distressed she won't be able to sleep. She's your kin. Can you bear to see her become like this? What do you want? Suing Shue asked with a mocking curl of her lip. Anyway, you're already the 9th princess consort, able to do as you please in the Great Shang dynasty, so you wouldn't care about this princess position in the Great Wei dynasty. Just give it to me. Let me be the princess of Great Wei. I'll take care of the imperial grandmother for you. I'll fulfill the marriage vows, marry cousin Mu Yin for you. You can't be by their side to show filial piety, but I can. I can do everything for you. The death of Shen Yu Lise, she pleaded urgently, pointing to the side where her parents, crushed to death by her own hands, lay. Look, they're all dead. The father and mother who bore me are dead. No one will know my true identity. As long as you go and tell the imperial grandmother that you made me take your place as princess, I promise, I will serve her well, and I will treat cousin Mu Yin well. Suing Shue, I beg you, let me continue being a princess. Let me keep being a princess. I don't want to live in poverty again. I'm scared of being poor. I don't want to live that life anymore. Shinyu covered her face in pain, begging Suing Shue in the most abject way possible. She had paid everything for this position of princess. Just look at how pitiful I am, and give me the place of princess. Give it to me. Shun Ye's desperate voice echoed throughout the basement. Suing Shue remained silent, instead turning to look behind her. Behind the door of the basement, Chui Han stood supporting the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager's aged face was filled with disappointment. Zhaoer, the imperial grandmother hadn't thought of sparing your life. But how could you be so heartless as to even kill your birth parents? They gave you life and raised you. Even if they led you to live in poverty, they are still your kin, blood of your blood. Imperial grandmother, Shen Yu was frozen on the ground, crawling towards the Empress Dowager on all fours, clutching at her robe. Imperial grandmother, it's not like that. It's not what you think. I didn't mean to kill them. It was because I was too scared. They were turned into human pigs. It was too horrifying. I didn't want to be dragged down by them. I was afraid of having to look after them. Enough. I will not protect you anymore. Ingxue, deal with this person as you see fit. The Empress Dowager withdrew her skirt and turned away in disappointment. Fu Mami helped her leave. Xinyu continued to scream in the basement. Imperial grandmother, spare me please. Su Ingxue, standing next to Chui Han, said coldly, she brought it upon herself. She does not deserve to live. How do you want her to die? Chu Yihan glanced at the 2 jars of medicinal alcohol. Turn her into a human pig to taste the suffering her parents endured? No need. That would dirty our hands. Su Ingxue surveyed the basement. Let's go, husband. Well, shut the windows. Leave her alone down here, so she doesn't disturb the imperial grandmother. Su Ingxue, what are you going to do to me? Save me, and I'll tell you a secret. Mu Fei. He even asked me to poison your imperial grandmother before. Su Ingxue. As the windows and door were sealed, Shen Ye's voice could not escape. Su Ingxue didn't even hear her final plea. All she knew was that in the basement without water or food, and with no airflow, Xinyu would die of suffocation within a day, just like her birth parents. Killing her own parents, she would stay there to join them in death. It was time to visit Jing. After 2 days of recovery, Jing still had a bruise around her neck, but she was otherwise unharmed. Upon seeing Su Ingxue, she immediately embraced her, sistering, It's okay, Jing, no need to worry anymore. You've left Mu Fei, that psychopath. Come back with me to the Great Qing Dynasty. They'll give you a new identity and let you start a new life. Su Ingxue stroked her head, just as if she were comforting her own sister. Give him a daughter lease, no? I don't want to leave my master. He's been very kind. He's been kind to Jing. Sister Ingxue, please don't kill him, will you? Jing knelt on the bed, continually kowtowing and begging Su Ingxue. It's not possible. Chu Yihan's cold voice instantly stunned Jing. Jing's lips were pale and trembling. Ninth Prince. If it had been only Su Ingxue, Jing might have pleaded again, but Chu Yihan's firm "it's not possible" completely dispelled her hopes. She collapsed dispiritedly onto the bed. Su Ingxue knew Jing was still young, and she felt empathy for her situation, telling her all about what Mu Fei had done. The telling lasted until the evening. You see, Mu Fei has done so many wrongs. Even though he came from a pitiable background, think about the people who died by his hand, who were hurt by him. Weren't they all pitiable? You were used by him too. Su Ingxue rubbed her head. So please, stop thinking about him. Okay? Okay. Jing's voice trembled with frailty. Sister Ingxue, when will Master die? I don't know, but it should be within a few days. The Emperor, my cousin, will execute him. Oh. Jing hung her head, showing a disappointed expression. Stop thinking about him. Rest early. When you come back with me to the Great Qing Dynasty, everything will be a new beginning. Okay. Thank you, Sister Ingxue. Jing was unusually calm, no longer making a fuss, quietly lying back down on the bed, as obedient as she was in front of Mu Fei. Su Ingxue and Chu Yihan also planned to go back to rest. Seeing that Chu Yihan did not talk much, Su Ingxue gently hooked her fingers on his hand. Hubby, what are you thinking about? Thinking that my princess is truly generous, even caring for the female slaves who were with Mu Fei. Chu Yihan pinched Su Yingxue's nose. Su Ingxue playfully tried to bite his finger. Kindness is worth protecting. If someone had taught me the same when I was 13 or 14, I wouldn't have been bullied. You were bullied at that time? Chu Yihan frowned slightly, a fierce aura suddenly emanating from him. Don't be like this. The ones who bullied me were just Su Yuro and her daughter, and they're dead. Su Ingxue pretended to be relaxed. In this lifetime, indeed, no one had the chance to bully her. She only pitied her past self. Maybe it's because of all you've experienced recently. You seem to have matured quite a bit. Chu Yihan touched Su Yingshu's face. Su Yingshu stuck out her tongue. I don't want to be old. If anyone is to get older, it should be you. After all, she was still a bright and charming young girl. Her last life had vanished like smoke, but in this life, she wanted to take control of her own destiny. So you really despise the fact that I'm older than you. A coldness flickered in Chu Yihan's eyes, sending a shiver down Su Yingshu's spine. You are old. Chu Yihan was 13 years her senior. Indeed, he was no longer young. As Chu Jinling put it, if the imperial uncle had married earlier, by now he might have a daughter about as old as you, auntie. A storm of darkness swirling in his eyes, Chu Yihan carried Su Yingshu straight back to the palace. Su Yingshu pleaded incessantly, You're not old. You're not old at all. She truly regretted it and wished he was not so spirited. In the heat of passion, Chu Yihan nibbled her tender earlobe, his voice sensually enticing. Give your highness a daughter, one as playful and adorable as her. Live and die with the master lease. Su Yingshu fell into a deep sleep, far from thinking about the matter of having a daughter. In her dreams, she was only considering when she could stand up straight tomorrow. Qin really decided to execute Mu Fei. When Mu Fei was led out through the noon gate, he wore a calm expression, as if the outcome did not surprise him at all. He had deliberately disfigured his face, making it impossible to recognize his original appearance. Qin Mayan oversaw the execution, tossing out a bamboo slip, and the executioner's blade fell swiftly. Mu Fei was rapidly reduced to a corpse. Before his death, the image that flashed through his mind was that of Jing. It was truly a pity he couldn't see her one last time, but the thought of her basking in the sun each day from now on, as charming as it was today, filled him with joy. Young girl, your master can no longer stay with you forever. In Funing Palace, Su Yingshu had planned to check on Jing's health, but upon entering the palace, she found that Jing had already breathed her last. Her lips trembled. How could this have happened? Why? She hastily called for Madame Fu. Madame Fu, seeing Jing's body, was equally astonished. How? How did this happen? The maid has been well looked after, and her health was fine, without any problems. How could she have died? Su Yingshu's outcry alerted the Empress Dowager. She was speaking with Chu Yihan. Upon hearing the news, Chu Yihan stood up. Your Highness will go and have a look. Do not worry. Good. With you by Yingshu's side, this dowager feels somewhat relieved. The Empress Dowager waved her hand, letting Chu Yihan go. When Chu Yihan arrived, Su Yingshu was examining Jing's body. It seemed Jing had been poisoned. A poisonous insect had been found inside her body, and it was this insect that had bitten her to death. However, the insect was also dead. Su Yingshu didn't quite understand these matters with poisonous insects, so Qin Mayan brought the court physician, who presented another dead insect, finally clearing up Su Yingshu's confusion. These are united heart-goo insects, residing inside a person's body. If one of the two insects dies, the other will die immediately. When placed inside two people's bodies, it binds their fates together. Does that mean that with Mu Fei's death, Jing would also die? Su Yingshu's eyes blazed with anger, her teeth clenching in hate. Damned Mu Fei. He even had to drag Jing down with him in death. Su Yingshu wished she could haul Mu Fei's body over for a merciless whipping. It's not necessarily someone's doing on purpose. The united heart-goo requires both individuals to ingest it willingly, and they develop a connection. If there are no feelings between two people, they could not take the goo. The court physician said. Two people with feelings for each other? Su Yingshu suddenly didn't understand. Could it be Jing liked Mu Fei? Mu Fei might not be indifferent to her either. Chu Yihan's hand rested on Su Yingshu's shoulder. Do you remember the scene when Mu Fei sees the young girl, threatening you? He was waiting for you. Waiting for me? Su Yingshi's mind revisited the scene from that night. Everyone around Mu Fei was dead, leaving only Ah Jing. Then, when he saw her, he grabbed Ah Jing by the neck, claiming he would use her to threaten Su Yingxue. Instantly, it sparked her instinct to protect Ah Jing. Afterwards, Mu Fei liked Ah Jing. At that time, he threatened me by seizing Ah Jing by the neck. Was it just to protect her? To make me spare her? Su Yingxue suddenly realized. How delicately she had fallen into Mu Fei's trap. Did he actually want to use her to protect Ah Jing? But this connected heart's goo. There were still things she didn't understand. If Mu Fei went to such lengths to protect Ah Jing, why would he feed her the connected heart's goo? Perhaps the connected heart's goo wasn't administered by Mu Fei. Maybe she had already anticipated Mu Fei's end. Chu Yihan glanced at the girl lying on the bed, who had closed her eyes, looking extremely peaceful in death. She looked composed, with a trace of a frozen smile on her lips. She didn't seem like someone forced to die, but someone who had been prepared. Did she do it willingly? Su Yingxue sighed deeply. She couldn't understand how someone as mentally twisted and cruel as Mu Fei could have someone willing to die for him. That night, Su Yingxue struggled to sleep for a long time. Wrapped in her clothing, she stood by the window, gazing up at the moonlight outside. The night sky was a deep, dark blue, like an infinite curtain, with the full moon hanging high and no stars to ornament it, making it seem especially lonely. Even though it radiated a gentle glow, it was still alone, just like some people who rush through life in solitude. Are you feeling sorry for that young girl? The man's slightly moist voice flowed into her heart like a spring. Su Yingxue glanced sideways, her cheeks puffed. Yes, Ah Jing had no parents and suffered a lot, but her thoughts were pure, truly rare. She was only Mu Fei's female slave. I originally wanted to bring her back to the Great Qing dynasty and provide her with a stable life, yet she followed Mu Fei in death. It really made her feel regretful. Such a clean and pure girl. Her heart was set on Mu Fei. To follow him to hell might not be a bad thing. A doctor can sense a patient's emotions. When you examined Ah Jing's body, did you feel her pain? Chu Yihan gently nudged her with the tip of his nose, his warm breath curling around her ear. Su Yingxue recalled, "There's no form of death that isn't painful. Although I've never experienced the agony of being devoured by a goo, it's definitely not easier than cutting one's wrists or biting one's tongue." With it being so difficult, yet she accepted it gladly. Does that not prove her happiness? Every sentence from Chu Yihan seemed to perfectly untangle the knots in Su Yingxue's heart. Su Yingxue looked down and smiled. "I never knew before that your highness was such a thoughtful person." Although Chu Yihan had great talent and was more suited to be an emperor than Chu Mingyuan before she married him, she always felt that he lived only in legends, a figure high above everyone else. She had never thought that such a lofty, almost divine person could be so attentive. "My attentiveness is reserved for you alone," Chu Yihan said as he gently stroked her cascade of hair, the tenderness in his touch as if he were caressing a child. "Really? How thoughtful are you towards me, my husband?" Su Yingxue playfully wrapped her arms around Chu Yihan's waist, stood on her tiptoes, and with slightly squinted eyes, she sized up Chu Yihan, like a little fox sharpening its claws, up to something. Chu Yihan couldn't be unaware of what the little fox was after. He pinched her fox-like paws, recollecting slowly, word by word. "You stopped wetting the bed at 5, became picky with food at 6, loved sweets at 7, made a fuss outside the Marquis Manor at 8, at 9. Chu Yihan recounted one by one the minute details of Su Yingxue's life, remembering them all crisply, even including her moods and temper at specific times, as though he had personally witnessed every single scene. "Farewell, Lise," Su Yingxue, after listening, was shocked for a long time. She didn't ask Chu Yihan why he cared so much. Because at last, Chu Yihan said, "Never underestimate a young man who has someone in his heart. He will carefully accompany his young girl as she grows, secure for her a realm of thousands of miles, and hold her up to be the moonlight cherished by thousands." The moon shone so purely, its silver light casting beauty across the land, so breathtaking that one could hardly sleep, only wishing to be its companion for life. Su Yingxue and Chu Yihan stayed in Great Wei for a month until Chu Yihan received a secret report and took Su Yingxue to bid farewell to the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager's eyes reddened with reluctance. "Are you leaving already? Can't you stay a little longer? I still want to talk more with Yingxue." She had missed Jing Er for more than 20 years, and these 2 months had been her happiest in many years. Seeing Su Yingxue was like seeing her own daughter. Su Yingxue's departure felt as if her heart was being torn out. Chu Yihan explained dispassionately, "The Great Cheng border is plagued with conflict. Old General Su has come to consult, and I must return to the court to stabilize the war situation. I cannot stay any longer. I hope the Imperial Grandmother will understand." The urgency of war affairs left no room for other considerations. The Empress Dowager sighed and wept. "Well, the war is indeed urgent. You both should go back first. It need not upset Mother so much, if your Highness is willing. Leave Yingxue and Yingdu, and after your Highness has settled the border conflicts, you could then take Yingxue back. After all, Yingxue is a girl, and surely she won't be required to fight in the battle, right?" Qin Ge couldn't bear to see the Empress Dowager's sorrow and thus advised, "Your Highness is not reassured." Chu Yihan outright rejected Qin Ge's suggestion. Qin Ge was somewhat embarrassed. Chu Yihan had always been respectful to her and the Empress Dowager. His sudden refusal was unexpected. Su Yingxue turned her eyes and glanced at Chu Yihan, thinking to herself, "What's there to be worried about? You're mischievous by nature and cannot stay still in the palace. What if you got lost in Great Wei?" Chu Yihan cast a cool glance her way. "I'm old enough. How could I possibly get lost?" Su Yingxue found the reason laughable. "If your Highness says you'll get lost, then you'll get lost." "I won't," Su Yingxue pouted. Listening on the side, Qin Ge laughed. How could Yingxue possibly get lost? Even if she wanted to, the Imperial Guards of the palace and the Imperial Guards of Yingdu would protect her. Besides, she also has her 2 cousins, Ru Lai and Mu Yin. Yingxue in Great Wei is the most honored little princess. Who would dare to harm her? Having the heart of a bear and the guts of a leopard. She is already your Highness' wife, and it wouldn't be right to trouble others with her. Chu Yihan appeared polite on the surface, but his tone had already turned cold, sending a shiver down one's spine. Qin Ge couldn't figure out which of her words had offended Chu Yihan. However, the Empress Dowager understood clearly. "It's fine. Yingxue will be with her husband, and I have nothing to worry about. After you've packed, they'll see you off." "Thank you, Imperial Grandmother." Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue bowed in unison and then went back. Qin Ge stayed with the Empress Dowager, puzzled. "Mother, do you really bear to let Yingxue leave? The 9th prince is going back to the battlefield. Bringing Yingxue might mean hardships for her. Wouldn't it be better to have Yingxue stay and keep you company for a while longer?" "Are you suggesting she stays to keep me company?" The Empress Dowager's scrutinizing gaze settled on Qin Ge. No sign of Qin Mayan Lise. Qin Ge suddenly felt guilty. Mother. A mother knows her daughter best. Her thoughts were instantly seen through by the Empress Dowager. "Alas, Gear, it's not that I do not care for Mu Yin, but Yingxue and Yihan's feelings for each other are strong. Moreover, they are already married. The deed is done. Why cause unnecessary trouble? I will have Ru Lai annul the betrothal between Mu Yin and Yingxue, as if it never existed. You and Ru Lai should take your time to carefully choose another partner for Mu Yin." The Empress Dowager held Qin Ge's hand, her voice earnest and heartfelt. "I know you have no children of your own and have always treated Mu Yin as if he were your birth son. but his marriage is ultimately not something we can control. In her tone was a note of compromise. In the past, when Xin Yu impersonated Su Yingxue, she wanted to decide Qin Mayan's marital affairs, only to nearly make a grave mistake. Only then did she truly understand that, despite their high positions, not everything is under the control of people who seem to be omnipotent. In the end, they are only mortals with flesh and blood, subject to birth, aging, sickness, and death, happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy. They are not the deities who control life and death. Qin Guest's smile was bitter at the corners of her mouth. Your daughter acknowledges this, but feels sorry for Mu Yen. Thinking of how Qin Mayan had spent the past few days languishing in the prince's mansion, Qin Gu felt heartbroken. She had not been able to give her child the best, what he most desired. It was a failure on her part as a mother. The next day, Su Yingxue took her leave from the Empress Dowager. In the Funing Palace, the Empress Dowager's eyes rimmed red, fighting back tears as she held Su Yingxue's hand, speechless and choked up. Su Yingxue also felt reluctant to part. Grandmother, rest assured. After the Great Cheng dynasty stabilizes, I will return to visit you with your highness. Good, I know, I will be waiting for you. Even after just one night, the Empress Dowager seemed to have aged considerably, her hair whiter. Su Yingxue wasn't sure if it was her own illusion, but the Empress Dowager seemed ill. But when she had administered the antidote for the sleeping draught that day, she had not observed any unusual symptoms in her physical condition. These past days, she had intended to re-examine and take her pulse, but the Empress Dowager said that the court physicians were taking care of her and that there was no need to trouble anyone, so Su Yingxue did not insist. At this moment, she wanted to take the Empress Dowager's pulse. However, the Empress Dowager steadied herself with Qin Guest's hand, diverting the attention. Gear, where is Mu Yin? As her cousin, how can he not come to see Yingxue off when she is about to leave? Qin really frowned, quite puzzled indeed. In these past days, I have not seen him attend court properly. I wonder what he has been doing in the mansion. Anxious they might see through any ruse, Qin Gu quickly said, Your Majesty, Mother, Mu Yin has been training troops in the military camp these past days and is quite exhausted. Recently, he has been at home contemplating military strategies in case of emergency. Thus, he neglected Yingxue, and it is truly regrettable. With an apologetic look towards Su Yingxue, Qin Gu said, Yingxue, your cousin has been busy and unable to see you off. As your aunt, I apologize on his behalf. All the travel provisions I prepared for you have been given to your people. Take care on your journey. Thank you for your thoughtfulness, aunt, said Su Yingxue with polite gratitude. Yet, she noticed numerous gaps in Qin Guest's words. During a chat with Qin Rili a few days ago, he mentioned not having seen Qin Mayan for a month, with no sign of him even at the army camp, leaving his whereabouts unknown. With Qin Gu making excuses, it seemed that Qin Mayan was not having an easy time in the mansion. But wasn't she the cause of it all? Dog food, you'll get used to at least. Su Yingxue felt somewhat of a headache, and after leaving Wei Palace, she spent her time on the carriage in a daze. After a long while, she heaved a heavy sigh. Chu Yihan looked up from his report, a hint of mockery curling up at the corner of his mouth. Reluctant to part ways, are you? Yes, grandmother is so old. To endure this separation, how distressing it must be. Although she didn't have many years of emotional connection, the kinship by blood and the care she had received in recent days made her treat the Empress Dowager like her own family. Your Highness thought you were reluctant to part with another, not the Empress Dowager. The look in Chu Yihan's eyes returned to the report, but his tone was decidedly cool. Su Yingxue examined his serious and handsome face, stifling a laugh on purpose. Yes, both of my cousins have been very kind to me, especially Qin. How has Qin Mayan treated you well? Before Su Yingxue could finish her sentence, Chu Yihan slapped the report down on the small table with a smack, even causing the legs to become crooked. Su Yingxue burst out laughing. I'm talking about cousin Qin Rili. He gave me many medical texts, had all the secret formulas and excellent remedies from the Imperial Medical Academy of Great Way copied for me, and was very supportive of my ambition to spread clinics throughout the world. He instructed me to make sure, when the time comes, to bring mature modern medicine to Great Way and benefit the people of Great Way. A flicker of discomfort passed over Chu Yihan's face. Is that so? Then you should study it thoroughly. I do plan to research thoroughly. How is it that my husband, the formidable ninth prince, has taken to getting sour and jealous so often these days? Su Yingxue deliberately pushed the matter in Chu Yihan's face, just in time to see a flash of discomposure in his eyes. Truly satisfying. Chu Yihan, using his strength as a man, had bullied her not a little at night. Seeing him discomposed now, Su Yingxue couldn't feel more thrilled. It was as if all the days of backaches and exhausting labor had paid off. Hey, Your Highness, what are you doing? Chu Yihan scooped her into his arms in one move, startling Su Yingxue into yelling. What do you call Your Highness? Your Highness, there are people outside. Emochi can hear us, and there are commoners on the street too. What should you call Your Highness? Hubby. Still feeling triumphant? I'm not triumphant at all. I didn't. Inside the carriage, the woman's voice carried a hint of threatened fear, half genuinely alarmed and half insincere. Then came a sequence of embarrassed, heart-fluttering, intimate noises. The shadow guards on either side felt their faces redden unconsciously. The leader cast a glance and kept steadily driving the carriage. Emochi, sitting closest to him, sent an admiring look his way. Commander, you're really steady. Had he mastered the art of blocking out sound? How could he remain so unflappable? Emochi, expressionless as he drove, responded, You get used to it. In the Great Qing dynasty, had heard and seen plenty, and hadn't been spared his share of lessons. Over time, he became accustomed to it. Just dog food. Head made a special stomach for it, so as not to burst. His immunity was pretty good these days, and it hadn't yet burst through his evenly proportioned, attractive figure. But it did often remind him of someone. In consideration of him, Su Yingxue spared Hong Li in her life, imprisoning her in the dungeon, never to emerge for the rest of her life. She said, whenever he wanted, he could go see her. But so much time had passed, that strong yearning he once felt, and the joy that came with touch. Gradually, it all but dissipated. Phew! Emochi was briefly lost in thought and nearly collided with someone ahead. The man rode a majestic steed, dressed in battle armor that fluttered vigorously. He was awe-inspiring, with a remarkably strong presence. The baby feels a bit wrong, Lise. Su Yingxue immediately leaned out. Emochi, are you tired of driving? Let me do it, and you go rest inside the carriage. The carriage bumped, giving Su Yingxue the chance she had been waiting for to break free from Chu Yihan. She hurriedly jumped down from the carriage. But on the road ahead, Qin Mayan was waiting for her on horseback. Qin Mayan approached her and extended his hand, his eyes deep. Yingxue, mount the horse. Your Highness has something to say to you. Su Yingxue had intended to ask him to get down and talk, but a man's low roar came from behind her. Su Yingxue, don't you dare. He was threatening her. Su Yingxue huffed and placed her hand in Qin Mayan's, allowing him to take her away on horseback. Qin Mayan's horse sped off quickly, disappearing from everyone's sight after a while. Emochi turned to ask for instructions. Master, should we bring the princess back? With Su Yingxue fleeing with Qin Mayan right in front of Chu Yihan, it seemed Chu would have destroyed the Great Wei dynasty out of spite. Let them be. From inside the carriage, a man's voice, cold as ice and barely containing his rage, could be heard. Conscious of his duty, Emochi alighted from the carriage, and with the shadow guards, moved away from the carriage. To their surprise, Chu Yihan ordered, Proceed. Proceed? Are we not waiting for the princess? One of the shadow guards whispered tentatively. Emochi gave him a strong pat on the back and squinted at him. Follow the master's orders. Those who talk too much will receive their punishment. The shadow guard who got hit had tearful eyes. The baby was just worried about the princess. The baby felt a bit wronged. Qin Mayan took Su Yingxue close to the military camp. Today, he had come from the prince's mansion to the military camp. Standing on the high mountain behind the camp, overlooking the soldiers training below, Qin Mayan couldn't hide the sorrow in his eyes. Yingxue, is there truly no chance for me? He had fallen for Su Yingxue at first sight, with a deep affection that he had never abandoned. He had tried everything, and in the end, he even waited for the truth, that Su Yingxue was his cousin to whom he had been betrothed. But in the end, fate was making a fool of him. Su Yingxue held his horse's reins and lightly patted its mane. Yes, cousin, you have no chance. I love your highness, and I am married to him. Such a straightforward answer. Decisive and final, not leaving anyone with any hope. A sharp pain surged through Qin Mayan's heart, more intense than the worst injury he had ever suffered on the battlefield. Su Yingxue knew he would be hurt, but she had to say the words she had prepared. Cousin, I am honored to be your cousin by blood, and I am honored to have met you. Like your highness, you are a hero of our time, the arm of the nation, but Su Yingxue is only one person with just one heart. I have promised myself to your highness and cannot promise myself to anyone else. My mother once said, one life, one partnership, no room for another in between. These words hit Qin Mayan like a storm, pounding into his heart. He desperately tried to block them, but they recklessly stormed into his heart, leaving it battered and wounded. Fine, then your highness will send you away. Qin Mayan's eyes were slightly red, his barely concealed anger and frustration clearly written on his face. He had never known the feeling of not getting what he wanted, but now he had to face the reality. His beloved cousin, his Su Yingxue, he had to part with her for life, never to have her again. Before leaving, Su Yingxue told him another truth. Cousin, actually, your young aunt Qin Zheng has long been deceased. My mother, Long Shuli, is not her. The initial heart still remains Lise, but the one who crossed over into her body was a modern soul. And as for what a modern soul is, after we together vanquished Wu Dao, I think you also understand. Qin Mu Yin was so shocked by this revelation that he couldn't regain his composure for a long time. He did know that Wu Dao was a soul from this world, as were Han Yuan and Rong Sheng. So his little aunt, no, it should be said Su Yingxue's mother was as well. Thinking back, this matter did not seem so strange after all. Though he had never seen his little aunt, the imperial brother said she was always a gentle and timid girl, far different from the world-renowned Long Shuli. Therefore, the person with whom you were betrothed is already gone. Our betrothal has not been fulfilled, and you need not dwell on it. Su Yingxue advised. The greatest regret is not that one has failed to obtain what they desire, but that what was rightfully his was mistakenly given to someone else. If it was never his to begin with, it should be able to untie the indissoluble knot in his heart. Qin Mu Yan's smile was mournful. It seems, your highness, we were truly not fated. If only his injuries had been more severe a bit earlier, if only he had met Su Yingxue a bit sooner. Now, thinking about these things was meaningless. Qin Mu Yin helped Su Yingxue onto the horse. Since it is so, your highness will not obstruct you and Chuihan any longer. This horse was discovered by your highness in the forest. It took quite some time to tame. Capable of traveling 1,000 li in a day, fiercely loyal, it has followed me through many battles. Today, your highness gifts it to you. Before Su Yingxue could say anything, Qin Mu Yin patted the horse, as if communicating with it. No sooner had he left the horse, it raised its hooves and neighed. It lifted its front legs high in a display of wild grace, showcasing its ability to cover great distances. Yet it did so without harming Su Yingxue in the slightest. Su Yingxue was amazed. What an impressive horse! To receive such a fine horse from Qin Mu Yin, how embarrassing for her. Cousin, what is the horse's name? Since Qin Mu Yin offered it with such sincerity, it would be terribly rude not to accept. Qin Mu Yin smiled faintly. Since it is a gift to you, it's your horse. You should name it. Su Yingxue held the reins, glanced at Qin Mu Yin once more, and after a moment's thought, she said, "Let's call it Chuxin." Good. Qin Mu Yin did not ask about the meaning behind the name she chose. He stood in place, watching her as she spurred the horse and left. As he watched her retreating figure, the longing in his eyes transitioned from intense to ethereal, diluting bit by bit until it vanished into nothingness. He turned and entered the military camp. Riding Chuxin, Su Yingxue hurried to catch up to Chui Han. The forest breeze was refreshingly pleasant, and her smile gradually blossomed. Chuxin is most beautiful. To not forget Chuxin is to remain true to the beginning. All things in this world come to this. Qin Mu Yan's treasured gift, she would remember in her heart. She would surely never forget. Years later, Chuxin would still be there. Chui Han was having a tiff with Su Yingxue. Along the way, Emochi and the Shadow Guards all complained bitterly. Both masters were very composed, each more resilient than the other. But those who served them could not endure it. Emochi, accustomed to being tormented, was doing okay, but the other Shadow Guards who followed suffered miserably. In front of Chui Han, one would be punished each day, and the punishment was to return to the Shadow Guard camp for retraining. They had all finally graduated from the Shadow Guard camp and had yet to really show their skills. So, just like that, they had the ill luck of being sent back to start over. What rotten luck. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.